2011, the Somali pirates were confident that they would get a huge amount of money from their successful hijacking of a South Korean container ship carrying 21 crew members in the waters of Oman. But while they were celebrating on the ship, they didn't know that the South Korean government had no intention of paying the ransom. Instead, they immediately assembled their bravest South Korean commandos to take back the ship, return the crew safely, and send the pirates to their deaths. This is the action-packed story behind Operation Dawn of Gulf of Aden, which became one of the boldest and most successful pirate hostage rescue missions in history. Mr. Good Vibes Shorts. On January 15 of that year, the South Korean chemical tanker Samho Jewelry was quietly sailing in the Arabian Sea. It came from the United Arab Emirates and was supposed to go to Sri Lanka. It was a large ship, weighing approximately 11,500 tons, and on board were 21 crew members, 8 South Koreans, 11 Burmese, and 2 Indonesians. But while they were about 648 kilometers southeast of Muscat, Oman, small and fast boats suddenly appeared around the tanker. Somali pirates. Without warning, they went straight to the side of the ship, armed with AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades. South Korean captain Seok Hye-gyun immediately saw the danger. He knew that once the boats got close to the tanker, it would be hard to stop them. So he changed the direction of the Samho Jewelry and tried to stay in international waters as long as possible. But they didn't back down. The pirates chased the tanker and eventually got close enough to board. One by one, the armed men climbed onto the ship. In just a short period of time, they had control of the bridge and the main parts of the Samho Jewelry. 21 crew members became hostages. And the pirates weren't just planning on asking for ransom. They even used the large tanker like a floating pirate base to get close to and attack other commercial vessels passing through the area. In South Korea, the news arrived quickly. This was a big problem for the shipping company, because as long as the pirates held the ship, the company's financial losses continued. But more importantly, 21 people were in the hands of an armed group in the middle of the sea. The next day, January 16th, South Korean President Lim Yong-bak issued a direct order. The situation needed to be resolved, and not just through negotiations. South Korea sent their destroyer, ROKS Choi-yong, as part of the Chonghai Anti-Piracy Unit. Along with it were a Westland Lynx naval helicopter, fast assault boats, and around 30 of their toughest elite naval commandos from the Republic of Korea Navy Special Warfare Flotilla. Soldiers trained for boarding operations, close quarters combat, hostage rescue, and maritime assault. On paper, the South Korean force was stronger, but there was one big problem. The hostages were inside the tanker. And even though there were fewer pirates, around 17, they were armed with AK-47 rifles and RPGs. If the South Korean commandos made even a single mistake, even by a few seconds, the pirates could kill the hostages before the rescue team reached the bridge. So when the destroyer ROKS Choi-yong caught up with the Samho Jewelry, they didn't attack right away. They just followed it day and night. Sometimes the destroyer would come close, as if it was about to start an assault, then suddenly pull away. Sometimes the helicopter would appear above the tanker, then disappear again. None of that was accidental. The South Koreans were slowly wearing down the pirates, forcing them to stay alert and denying them any rest. At the same time, the Korean forces also disrupted their communications to make it difficult for them to ask for help. This was a psychological war. On January 18, 2011, about 11 kilometers from the Samho Jewelry, the pirates spotted a Mongolian cargo vessel and immediately saw it as a new target. 4 of them boarded a small motorboat, armed with their guns, and quickly headed to the cargo ship to try to hijack it. But they made a big mistake, because when the 4 men left, the number of pirates guarding the Samho jewelry was reduced. From the destroyer ROKS Choi Young, the South Korean forces saw an opportunity. 10 naval commandos were immediately loaded onto a high-speed boat and quickly approached the tanker. This was supposed to be their first chance to board the ship, but as the small assault boat carrying the Korean commandos approached the massive hull of the Samho jewelry, the remaining pirates noticed them, and before the commandos could get any closer, they were suddenly fired upon with AK-47s from the tanker. The Korean forces returned fire, and within just a few seconds, the operation turned into an intense firefight. The problem was, the commandos had very little cover on the small boat, and every bullet from the high deck of the tanker could hit them. 3 Korean commandos were wounded. They could no longer force their way aboard. The assault boat was forced to retreat and returned to the ROKS Choi Young. The first boarding attempt failed, but that didn't mean the South Koreans were defeated. At the same time, another battle was happening at sea. The 4 pirates who were heading towards the Mongolian cargo ship were chased by a Westland Lynx helicopter from the Choi Young. From the air, the helicopter quickly caught up with the small motorboat. But the pirates had no intention of stopping. They immediately fired at the approaching helicopter, and an encounter ensued. A machine gun unleashed a hail of bullets from the helicopter, and all 4 pirates were immediately killed aboard their boat. The Mongolian vessel survived and was able to continue its voyage. When the Korean forces retrieved the belongings left on the pirates' boat, they saw how simple the hijackers' equipment was. 3 old AK-47 rifles, 1 ammunition magazine, 3 small metal ladders used for climbing large ships, screwdrivers, spanner, and some fishing knives. But what happened had a more important effect. At first, the commandos found out that the group only had 6 AK-47 rifles. They have now recovered 3 of them from the boat. This means half of their guns and almost 1/4 of their members have been lost or taken out. The first boarding attempt failed, but in the bigger fight, the pirates became even weaker. They were already exhausted because they had been pursued for several days. They were harassed and not allowed to sleep properly. They also had fewer weapons for their men. This is where the situation changed. The South Korean military received intelligence that there might be additional pirates from Somalia coming to provide reinforcements. If they arrive, the rescue will become more difficult, and the 21 hostages will be in greater danger. So they could not wait any longer. Inside the ROKS Choyong, preparations for the larger hostage rescue began. For the upcoming operation, it won't just be 10 commandos approaching. In the next attempt, they will use the entire assault force, 3 fast boats, and helicopter support. And at dawn on January 21, the order was given. It was time to take back the Samho jewelry. It was still dark over the Arabian Sea when the South Korean forces began to move. The Samho jewelry was about 1,300 kilometers from the coast of Somalia, far from any help. Around 4:58 in the morning, Operation Dawn of Gulf of Aden began. 3 fast assault boats were launched from the destroyer ROKS Choyong. Naval commandos boarded them, ready to board the tanker. This time, it wasn't like the first attempt. Every move was planned as the small boats quickly chased after the large Samho jewelry. The Westland Lynx helicopter also took off from the destroyer and headed straight over the tanker. The helicopter was crucial to the plan. They needed to divide the pirates' attention and prevent them from positioning themselves properly against the commandos coming from below. The Lynx helicopter circled near the bridge while South Korean forces provided cover and suppression fire against the pirates' positions. Some of them were forced to duck and look for cover amid the noise of the helicopter, gunfire, and waves crashing against the ship. 3 assault boats quickly slipped in toward parts of the tanker that were hard to see from the bridge. This was where the most dangerous part began. The Samho jewelry was enormous compared to the small assault boats. The commandos had to position their boats alongside the moving vessel and quickly climb up before they were spotted or shot at from above. The Korean commandos climbed up one by one and reached the deck, but almost as soon as they boarded, gunfire erupted. The remaining pirates were still armed with AK-47 rifles and rocket-propelled grenades, and they had no intention of surrendering easily. The Korean commandos couldn't just fire at anything that moved. There were 21 hostages inside the ship. That's why every door, every hallway, and every corner had to be approached carefully. From the open deck, the assault teams began to enter the tanker. The corridors were narrow, there were many stairs, and the cabins were interconnected. In a place like this, the commandos and pirates could be only a few meters apart before they encounter each other. Just one wrong turn, and they could be met with direct AK-47 fire. The operation was divided to quickly clear different parts of the ship. While one group advances toward the bridge and command areas, others search the accommodation sections and other compartments, not knowing which room the crew might be hidden in. They aren't sure if those inside are hostages or heavily armed. At the same time, the helicopter continues to circle outside to prevent the hijackers from positioning themselves in the exposed areas of the tanker. The pirates are slowly being pushed back, but the fight isn't over yet. There are still gunshots happening inside the ship, and the commandos haven't seen all the hostages yet. Their biggest fear is that once the pirates realize they're about to lose, they might use the hostages as human shields or kill them before the rescue team arrives. And inside the Samho jewelry, a tragedy happened. Captain Hijacking is still being held by the pirates and is caught in the middle of the gunfight. While the Korean commandos were advancing, he was repeatedly hit by bullets and was seriously injured. The gunfight continued inside the Samho jewelry as the Korean commandos cleared every corridor and cabin. The pirates were gradually losing their positions. They had no clear way to escape. Outside, the destroyer ROKS Choi Young controlled the area around the tanker. Above, a helicopter was still circling. And inside, the assault team was getting closer and closer to the parts of the ship where the hostages might be hiding. The commandos advanced slowly. Some pirates fought until the end, while others were forced to surrender when they had nowhere left to go. In close-quarters battle, there was almost no distance between the two sides. The fight was no longer about long-range gunfire. Hallways, stairs, doorways, and narrow cabins were the battlefield. In this kind of situation, only seconds separated life and death. The South Koreans needed to move quickly, but they couldn't be reckless because the 21 hostages were on the same ship. They found the crew members. They were alive. As the clearing operation went on, it became clearer that the plan was working. The commandos were gradually taking control of the entire tanker. At the end of the battle, 8 of the remaining pirates were killed and 5 were captured alive. And most importantly, all 21 hostages were rescued alive. No Korean commando was killed in the final assault, but not everyone got out without serious injuries. Captain Suk Hye-gyun was found with multiple gunshot wounds. His condition was critical, and he needed immediate advanced medical treatment. He couldn't just stay on the tanker. So after the ship was secured, the South Korean forces asked for help from a nearby American warship, the USS Shoup of the United States Navy. The Americans sent a helicopter, and the wounded captain was brought on board so he could be evacuated while being taken for emergency treatment. Meanwhile, the Korean commandos continued to make sure that there were no armed pirates left on the ship. They collected the weapons, guarded the 5 captured pirates, and checked the condition of each crew member one by one. From the time the assault began, at around 5:48 in the morning, it took almost 5 hours before the Samho jewelry was finally secured. A massive tanker that had been held for days by armed pirates was recovered through coordinated helicopter support, fast boat assault, and close-quarter combat. In the end, 21 hostages survived, 8 pirates were killed, and 5 were captured. But for South Korea, the story isn't over yet. After the Samho jewelry was recovered, the news quickly spread throughout South Korea. A ship that had been held by Somali pirates for several days with 21 hostages, was recovered with all the crew alive. No Korean commando died in the final assault. For the South Korean government, the message is clear. If anyone attempts to attack their citizens at sea, they are ready to use force. President Lee Myung-bak himself appeared on television and praised the military, while warning that South Korea's response will be strong against anyone who puts their citizens in danger. But 5 problems remain. The 5 Somali pirates who were captured alive. Instead of leaving them in another country, South Korea decided to bring them to their own territory. On January 29, 2011, the 5 were brought to South Korea, and the investigation began in Busan, where the Samho jewelry and its captain are based. They faced serious charges, including maritime robbery, ship hijacking, and attempted murder. One of the investigators' most important questions was, who shot Captain Siak Hae-gyun during the rescue? The investigation revealed that the leader of the pirates, Abdi Rizka Sayak, and his lieutenant, Suti Ali Harut, were the ones who shot before they were killed. The remaining pirates, on the other hand, gave different stories, and some even claimed that they didn't know each other. On May 27, 2011, some of them were sentenced to life imprisonment, while 3 more pirates were given long sentences ranging from 13 to 15 years. The operation also affected areas beyond South Korea. There were reports that some Somalians threatened to take revenge on South Korea. Instead of holding Korean sailors hostage for ransom the next time they capture them, they threatened that they might just kill the crew members. This showed how big of a message Operation Dawn of Gulf of Aden sent to the pirate network in the region. And if you look at the entire operation, it wasn't just military strength that led South Korea to victory. They used strategy. In the end, all 21 hostages were alive. And that's the reason why this operation is remembered not just as a rescue mission, but as an example of how perseverance, intelligence, perfect timing, and bold execution can bring success even when just one wrong move separates rescue from tragedy. And that's the lesson. Evil may win temporarily, but when good is ready to stand up, plan, and fight, the day will come when the tide will turn. So, my friend, when the time comes that you feel surrounded by problems, don't give up right away and don't act rashly. Wait for the right opportunity, plan carefully, and when it's time to act, give it your all. Because sometimes, one brave decision is all it takes to completely change your fate. If you like this video, share it with others and subscribe as well. Also, watch the videos on the right so you can waste even more of your time.